Hi, Rudolf. Thanks for joining us today. Hopefully, we can introduce you to the Trifactri coaching group. Just to start off, maybe you can give us a small overview of who you are, how you started in triathlon, and where you ended off.
Hi, Garen. Thanks for having me. So I started with my triathlon journey when I was about 13, 14 years old. In primary school, used to do athletics, cross country, the middle distance racing. My dad was a cyclist since I can remember. And then my brother had a bit of asthma problems that he had. And then the doctor recommended swimming as a good thing for him because apparently the oxygen level just above the water it's rich in oxygen. So obviously him being the older brother, I just had to follow suit. Whatever he does, I just had to do. And then we figured out like we were doing 2 out of the 3 already, me and my brother. And then my dad was a cyclist, so he had a bit of knowledge over there. And then we did one of the NEJ races there in the Val. And then since then, I've been hooked on doing triathlon, went through all the phases, going racing junior, under 23, elite in the ITU course. Then 6 years ago, I shifted over to racing 70.3 races. And now I'm turning 30 years old in a few weeks' time. So decided racing professionally, it's been fun, but I need to start working on other adventures. And that's why I've started becoming a coach and not race pro full-time anymore, but an age grouper so I can give more attention to coaching and helping other people.
Yeah, and I think that's great. And I think that wealth of experience is not only going to help you, but going to help all the athletes that you end up working with. Obviously, we've had a chat before this, and one of the things that you're very passionate about is the youth. And I see you basically started in the Energade triathlon series, and I think you have a lot of learnings from that. And there certainly seems to be a big gap in the South African triathlon scene with the youth. Don't know if you've got any feelings about that.
No, I agree 100%. If you look at all the current top triathletes that the country has, all of them started out with the NEJ series or the various versions of that kind of racing series. And that's something that is definitely lacking behind. We don't have those many races. We don't have exposure to the juniors. My sentiment is the more you race, the more you learn. So you're going to have X amount of good races in your life and X amount of bad races in your life. So if you race smaller races, you learn from your mistakes, you try new tactics, or you experiment with training programs to initiate it for this race, then it's easier to learn from your mistakes and to adapt your program as a coach as well. So if there's no races, I don't know if I'm coaching you, is my training program working for you? Is it not working for you? It might be doing well at training like track or swimming, but putting everything together, it's a difficult part of the puzzle that I need to figure out with coaching juniors. And I know I made a lot of mistakes when I was younger, thinking every session needs to be harder than the previous one. That's how you get faster. And that's not how it goes. You will also know, being an experienced athlete, you need to find that balance between training hard and training smart. And with races, that's where you learn. Was training going good? Is training going bad? What works? What doesn't work? Let's stick to what works. Let's change what doesn't work. And I feel we are starting to lag behind all the other European countries because after Richard and Henry, I don't really see anyone else coming up on the ITU circuit that's making big name for themselves, standing out like they are. So I feel like we are in dire need of a new racing series that's across the whole country so everyone can participate. I mean, it was like a mini SA Champs for us every other weekend from October to January, where we raced against each other over the different courses, different weather conditions, swimming in dams, swimming in seas. So you just got so much experience that once you do go overseas to race, you're so used to racing against different people, swimming in a sea, swimming in a dam, having a hilly course, having a flat course. So yeah, no, definitely there's a huge gap where I think we can fill that. I don't know how we're going to fill the gap, but I just know there is a gap, and we as coaches or as a federation, especially TSA, need to go out, try and find sponsors or venues and say, listen, let's have a race, a season for, even if it's just for the juniors and the elite. And then once it's established, bring in more and more people so they get that feeling of racing with the masses, just to simulate what it's like racing overseas against other juniors. I mean, you in Europe as well, you know how well how many often there's races, how well people are racing. You get to race against the elite. I got to do that when I was a junior, race against the elite so I can measure myself. I'm over here now. In 3-4 years' time, I need to be there to be on world-class level or thinking about racing overseas. Whereas now, you race SA champs, you get selected for world champs, but you don't really know how well you'll do over there only once when you get there, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, it makes perfect sense. And I think in terms of what you're saying, and even what I've seen over in Ireland where I'm based at the moment, a lot of the triathlons during the summer all incorporate a try, a sprint distance, an Olympic distance. So it gives everyone of all ages and all abilities some type of entry into the sport. Plus then that factored in with national leagues and national championships, as you say, week in, week out, with people racing at the top level all the time. Coming on to your coaching then, obviously with your racing experience, your training experience, the fact that you've probably had multiple coaches along the many years that you have, you also have degrees, you've worked with some of the top coaches in South Africa. How does that now affect your coaching and your coaching approach? Obviously, as I say, there's been multiple learnings, good and bad, and you can put all those together. How do you see that standing in your favor?
Look, I've been very fortunate being in the sport, racing for so long, having access to multiple coaches, multiple philosophies. Also, when I studied sports science, also there from the lecturers, learning how to incorporate theoretical work into practical work. You learn so much that you know that there's more than one way to get the same results. It's not my way or the highway. You can do different training programs and get the same results. So that's what makes sport for me so interesting and so nice. It's not just one way fits all. It's kind of, we've got multiple ways of testing theories to see what works and what doesn't work. And the nice and challenging thing is what works for me might not necessarily work for you. So you can't just copy paste the training programs for all your athletes because they might differ in gender, age, experience in terms of being a triathlete specifically for X amount of years versus coming from a different sporting background and coming into triathlon. So you might have someone that's been a very good runner for all his life, but now he's starting a triathlon and he's not a good swimmer. So you can't just give him a 4 or 5K swimming set because he'll never make it. So that's what the nice thing is. I've learned so much in the past. I'm still busy learning now, trying to adapt it, trying to apply it to my athletes that I have now. And it's just very nice trying to figure out what puzzle piece goes with what athlete to give them the complete picture. So that's what I do enjoy about this. And even now, I'm still not scared. If I don't know, I won't tell an athlete that it is this 100%. If they ask me a question with, what about this? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? And I don't know, I'll tell them straight, listen, I'm not 100% sure. Let me do some research and get back to you so that you know what I'm doing, so that you know what you're doing, so we understand each other and trust each other. Because you get a lot of athletes that's being coached by brilliant coaches, but if they don't trust each other, then it's not going to work. So for me, that relationship between athlete and coach is also very important to show them that, listen, I know what I'm doing. If you give me your best, I'll give you my best. That's the kind of philosophy that I'm working with. So I don't mind if I coach anyone that's got a lot of talent or doesn't have a lot of talent. For me, regardless, I'll try and make you the best athlete that you can be, but you just need to give me the work ethic. That's something you can't teach. If you come with work ethic, then that's all that I need, regardless of experience that you have in triathlon or other sports in the past.
Knowing you over the last couple of years, I think you epitomize the statement, the best you can be. You've obviously won a good few events and that sort of thing. But one thing I know, when I saw Rudolf Naude's name on the start list, it was that he would be the best he could be on the day. And I think if you can translate that into coaching and your athletes are willing to give you the best that they can be, the two of you are going to work very well together. I don't suppose then that you have an ideal athlete. You just have an athlete that you'd prefer them to have a really good work ethic. by the sounds of things, you're up for the challenge to work with a whole variety of different people. Have I got you correct on that?
That's correct. So for me, the ideal athlete would be to have work ethic and to be honest. Like, I know the world is a little bit confusing at this point in time. No one really knows what's happening, what's not happening, when will life get back to normal. It's going to be in a year, 2 years time, 5 years time, 5 weeks time. So we don't know. So for me, it's work ethic and if you're honest. I know, like I said, the world being so confusing as it is, if I give you a training session to do and you wake up in the morning and you're not feeling it, rather tell me, listen, I don't feel like doing this. Today's just not my day. Then instead of not saying anything, and then I just assume that you just did the training session 100%, and then come race day, whenever it might come again, you don't perform the way you should perform, then I'm sitting there scratching my head going, what did I do wrong? Why didn't you perform the way I thought you would? Because based on your training values and your numbers, you should be performing at least at X level. But if you tell me, listen, I'm doing all my sessions, so I don't know also if this is a good or bad thing, but in my mind, no news is good news. So if you don't tell me, listen, I'm shattered, or if you just keep radio silence, I'm going to assume that no news is good news. So I'd rather prefer you to overload with information than not give me anything. Because if you give me too much information, I can filter out what is good information and what's just extra information that is not needed, rather than me trying to figure out what's going on. So if you're just honest and hardworking, that will basically sum up my perfect athlete.
Yeah, well, that sounds good to me. And I think it's really important with any coach-athlete relationship that there is honesty and that there's trust. These things do take a few weeks or months to build up, but speaking from our own experience, once you have that relationship, it is very easy to just go week on week, well, week in, week out, kind of just doing the sessions until you actually do need to communicate something back that, Houston, we have a problem. That brings us to the Trifactri group. It's a small group of coaches. Obviously, you got involved with Lucy a few years ago on a professional level. Why the choice to join the Trifactri group?
So I've known Lucy since the NJ series, raced with her, raced against her, not directly against her, but in the same kind of race. And then there you got to learn how Lucy is. She says it straightforward as it is. She doesn't take pains and twist and turn. If you mess up, she'll go straight to you and say, listen, what did you do? Why did you mess up? You're not supposed to do this. And that's also the kind of approach that you don't need to sugarcoat everything in life. Sometimes you need to hear that, listen, you messed up. You can't go through life with everyone telling you, oh, this was not your best, but it was not bad. Sometimes you need to hear that, listen, it was not good. Next time we'll do better, but this was not good. I've heard that a few times from Lucy, unfortunately, which is it's not very nice. She is a little bit intimidating. So it's just that approach, that kind of no nonsense approach, but she's still reasonable. If I tell her, listen, Lucy, I'm very tired, I'm smashed from training, she won't be like, well, Training Peak says you have to do X and Y. Come back when you've done X and Y. She'll be like, okay, listen, let's take 2 or 3 days off. Let's recuperate. Let's take it from there. So that's the kind of thing that I like from her. She's direct when she needs to be, but she's also fair with her assessment of how you're feeling, what you're doing. And I've seen that at the races. Everyone at Trifactri is always happy. It's like a big, huge family that they've got going there. Everyone's always supporting each other in the races and everything. And once Lucy started coaching me, after a few months, I really felt like I was a part of the family, and also, listen, what can I do to contribute more to this? I want to help. I want to be more part of the family. And then we got to the conclusion that I want to start coaching here in Pretoria, branch out, Trifactri in Pretoria. And I'm very happy that she offered me this position, and very grateful to be a part of the team, not just racing for them, but also be part of the coaching team.
Yeah, and I think your experience in that is an asset to the team as well. And I think anyone who is coached by you and who falls then under the Trifactri umbrella is going to see the benefits of the Trifactri team as a whole. Which brings us on to the last question, and I suppose probably the hardest question, and I think we're all tackling at the moment, and that's how we continue training for something we don't know, or we don't have a fixed date on when we will resume racing. I think it's very difficult on everyone, and I look at it myself and say initially with the whole COVID-19 situation, we were motivated by our peers to go Zwift racing and have a 5-kilometer time trial by ourselves and do a few virtual races. As time has passed, that has become no longer motivation, but more inspiration that we need to keep ourselves going, because there's people falling by the wayside. People are finding it very difficult to maintain that. So I think, what are your ideas around keeping some sort of focus, trying to inspire yourself? You've obviously raced as a pro. You know what it's like to come back. As I said, you're always at the best you can be. But for somebody new, for somebody starting out that's had promises of a race, extensions, cancellations, it's very trying on everyone. So maybe you can give us some advice on how you approach it.
Yeah, so mentally it's a challenge, because also, like you said, there's the promise of racing, and then government says, unfortunately, no, we're extending a certain part of lockdown level or zone, whatever is in any country going on. And then you get races, you get race dates, you get excited, you get amped for it, but then you kind of hold your breath in the background going, but what if this happens? And we, unfortunately, in that, where a few of our races has been postponed, supposed to do the Durban Ultra in March, that got postponed to September or August, if I'm not mistaken. So it is challenging, it is tough, but I think the most important part, especially for me, is obviously Lucy helps to motivate me. Luckily I've got a nice support system with my family as well, that's supporting me with my training and racing and everything. And I just try to make training more fun, even though it's still very structured. You try and make it fun. I know what I do with my juniors is sometimes we have little mini races, or in the swimming pool we do relay races. You don't win anything, but it's just a little bit of bragging rights, running, cycling, swimming, that kind of a little mini race in a training session. So you're still getting the proper training that you need, but in their minds it's more about fun and enjoying it than actually working hard. So if you tell someone that we're dividing into teams, your winning team gets just a crisp high five, but it's that feeling of we kind of racing, we participating. I'm better, a little bit better than my friends, or I can measure myself against someone, no holds bar. Because normally when you do a track session or swimming session, you're limited by your pace that you might do. So if you do 400s, you might be limited by 80 or 82 seconds per lap. But if you say, listen, we're racing as a relay, go for it, show me what you got. It's also that little thing I want to show the coach I've worked a little bit harder, I've improved. Also, I want to beat my friend that's next to me because last night he was giving me stick on social media. So a little bit unlike that. It's the same as what me and Glenn normally do. I know you sometimes watch it, our little social media fighting banter that's going on there. So it's just those kinds of things that you can do. Even with the group session, say the last Friday of a month, let's have relay sessions. The losing team has to buy everyone else a smoothie at the gym, or something like that, for example. Like little small external rewards that just shows, listen, I need to work hard because I don't want to drop my team, and also I want the other team to give me something. It's a little bit extrinsic rewards, not intrinsic, but it accommodates each other, and that's how you keep motivated just to keep carrying on going.
Yeah, I certainly like the idea of small teams, because you're motivated for the team too. I know we participated in a wonderful time trial series on Zwift a few months ago now, and every Thursday morning, I think it was the highlight of the week for some weeks. So yeah, can totally relate to the team type events. Rudolf, it's been really good having a catch-up call with you. I wish you all the luck in the world with the transition from pro to coach. Just if people would like to get hold of you, what's the best way that they can do that?
So my email address is nudiarudolf@gmail.com. I normally respond quite fast to that, or I'm not sure if my details are on the Trifactri website just of yet, but my cell phone number and email address should be on there. And then that's the way you're going to contact me. Also on social media, Rudolf Naude, my handles on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I think that's it. I don't know, smoke signals, people still use it or not. Just sure.
Yeah, look, again, Rudolf, it's been really good to chat to you, and hopefully we'll see each other around the world at some stage in the not near distant future.
I hope so. I hope you're keeping well in Ireland. All the best for your training and also mental well-being. But thanks for having me, and thanks for having the chat, Karen.
Thank you very much, sir.